Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. It's been quite a while since I've done one of these videos for various reasons, but I thought I'd quite like to get into it again. You'll have to bear with me while I probably make every single videoing mistake under the sun, but you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Partly I just like sort of communicating with people, but also as I've said on my site, I am going to plan to wind down making and selling probably in September 2026. So I thought it'd be quite nice to have a record of what I've been doing and how I do it. So if anyone else wants to carry it on, then they'll be able to. And I thought I'd start by showing people how to make my little cushions. If you can see that. It's a one with little cherubs on. They're digitally printed and then sewn by me. So first of all, I shall go through what you need. You need an inkjet printer and a computer, and you need a sheet of freezer paper, which is kind of shiny on one side and matte on the other. And I use Craft Jones freezer paper. I did have the label, but I seem to have lost the label now. My main talent is losing things. I can sit here and I can be sewing and my scissors disappear, or the thing I'm making just vanishes, just the way it is. I've tried other freezer paper. Try and obviously, like most people who make and sell, I try and keep my costs down. But I tried a cheap freezer paper and it just didn't work. It didn't go through the printer at all. So I recommend Craft Jones. If you look up, just put in Google Craft Jones freezer paper, then the suppliers will come up, and you get quite a lot of sheets of it for, I don't know, I think it's about £10. The other thing that you can use is the fixer. It's called Bubble Jet Set 2000. I have been using it because it kind of sets the ink on the fabric, and if the fabric gets wet, then the ink shouldn't run, and it's supposed to stop it fading. But to be honest, it's quite expensive, and you shouldn't really get the cushions wet anyway. Why would you? And I'm not sure about the fading, to be honest. I've been looking up, and apparently just ironing it can help heat set it. And I've got cushions that I've had from when I first started making them. It's quite a few years ago. Some of them have faded, some of them haven't. I think it's probably more to do with the fabric that you use as much as anything else. So it's £24. So to be honest, I'm not going to bother buying any more of this, because I'm going to plan on making a couple more batches of cushions, and the Christmas cushions. I've got a lot in stock, and I'm just going to heat set them, which is what I started out doing. And I haven't had any disgruntled customers come up to me and say, "Oh, my cushion's really faded." And cushions, like I say, fabrics do fade, don't they? The good thing about a doll's house is you're not keeping it in the blazing sun, hopefully, so they should last a reasonable amount of time. The other thing you need is a piece of fabric. The kind of fabric is pretty important. It has to be cotton. Can't use anything else other than cotton for this. And the better the quality to the cotton, the better the results will be. When I first started out, I was using a linen sheet that had belonged to my grandmother, a cotton kind of linen-y sheet that my mum said she thought my grandmother had probably been given it when she was married, and it had been in a cupboard, and a bit of it was stained with damp, so obviously it was never going to be really used as a sheet, and I ended up with it. So I started using it to experiment making things with, and it worked really well. And then after that, I used most of that. I can't bring myself to use the last little piece. I'm keeping it. I think I'm probably going to make some lavender heart things with it for my drawers, because I don't know, it's got a link between me and my grandmother. I don't want to get rid of all of it. So then I started buying in cotton, and it was really trial and error. That was no, some of the thinner, cheaper cotton looks good initially and then fades really quickly. So then I saw on eBay that someone was selling vintage cotton sheets. I think they're hospital sheets. One of them's got some stamp on it that looks like it's been liberated from some hospital. But this is coming up, the printing I'm getting off this is so much better. I'm really pleased with it. What I think I will try and do, if people are interested, is maybe start selling a little bit of that cotton along with 2 or 3 of the freezer sheets, so that if you want to have a go, you're not outlaying a huge amount of money. But let me know if that's something you'd be interested in trying out in the comments. And that's really it. Oh, is that the label? Oh, it is the label. There you go. The craft fabric freezer paper sheet. So yeah, basically a printer, an inkjet printer. I've got an HP Envy 6020E, I think it is. Before that, I was using the cheapest inkjet printer that I could find, because I didn't realise I was going to be making cushions for 3 years, and I bought it to print out the odd boarding pass, and it was a real workhorse. It did its job. It was an HP one, and then it eventually died a death, and I bought this one that's not very, less than £100 I think, and a laptop. So I shall turn off now and swivel around and get my computer set up and show you how I do the getting the images onto the computer ready to print. I'll see you in a minute. Hi, so I'm back with the laptop and a few images here, some Art Deco ladies for you. I get my images mainly from Etsy. I put in digital downloads, and people sell images, and really they normally come in for a pack between £1 and £3. I generally go for the ones that are about £1. But you can use your own photographs, your own drawings. You can use images from Pinterest. Because I'm selling, I tend to try and acquire copyright images, but Pinterest is a great source of images, and if you're just making a few cushions for your own use, I don't really see that there's a problem with acquiring an image off Pinterest. There's some, you can just get lost in a world of images out there. There are so many. One of the reasons I really enjoy doing this is because I'm really interested in art, and I love collecting things and putting them into themes. So this kind of, when I was making all the themes for the cushions, I was in 7th heaven, really. Anyway, this is Word, and I use Word because I know how to use it, and I can't be bothered to learn how to use anything else. I'm not interested. Other people use Photoshop, just basically anything where you can manipulate images and you know how to use it will work. So I will show you how I use mine. I download the images, I buy images, and then I download them, and then I go into Insert, Pictures, this device, and there they are. So I've gone up to there, try and find the next one along, which is I think that one, and then oh, she's very haughty looking. Do I want to make her? Go on, I'll make her. Insert her, and she'll come up very large. So then what you need to do is go into picture format, and has it not done it? Come on, picture format. Yes, it has done it. At the end of picture format, there is a size thing, and then you want to go down here. Obviously your thing might be different, but this is what I use, and you take out the lock aspect ratio and the relative to picture size ratio, and then you can change the height and the width, and I go for 3.3, but you can do any size you like, you know, and if you want to make a bed cover you can do it. So I've got the height and width done, then I do OK, and then it should be up here somewhere. There she is. And then I will go into corrections, and I go into the brightness and contrast, and I do the one down from where the black square is. But you know, you just kind of fiddle around and decide what you like. And then I go back up to corrections and I sharpen it. Now this one can make things go a bit strange, so I always check to make sure it hasn't gone overly sharp and looks a bit odd. And then colour. Now because you're printing on fabric, you need to kind of saturate the colour a bit, because the ink sort of soaks in to the fabric a little bit, I think. That's my theory anyway, so I tend to go quite high on the fabric, but again you have to watch it, because sometimes it happens fine. Sometimes things go green. It's a bit like, I think, if you turn up an old fashioned colour television. My grandparents used to watch everything when they were the first people to get a colour television, and they thought they'd get their money's worth by turning the colour right up, so everyone looked very ill on their television. And the other thing I have in colour is something called colour and tone, and I will tend to just up that a little bit as well. And there she is. She is now ready. And then I just basically do a whole page of those, and you can normally get 20-25 on a page. When you're starting out, I would leave a little bit more space between the images than I do, just so that you've got a bit room to play with when you're sewing and cutting. But hopefully that was clear. I'm not the best IT teacher. I used to be a primary school teacher, and I used to hate having to teach IT. I really couldn't see the point of teaching a 4-year-old how to log on to a computer, and it used to drive me nuts. And to be quite honest, I think that most children should be kept away from computers for as long as possible and just be playing outside, but that's another story. Anyway, I shall finish this now, and the next section will be talking about the fabric and preparing it for printing. Thank you. Hi, so I'm back again, and I am going to talk about the fabric again and the freezer paper. Now what you do is you need a piece of cotton, as I say, the best quality cotton you can get hold of, that's bigger than A4, and then you iron the freezer paper onto that. The shiny side is the side that will stick to the paper, and you iron it on good and proper, like nobody's business, as my grandmother would say, so that the edges are really stuck down, and then you basically cut it out, and you cut, let me see if you can see, I'm just cutting into the paper a little bit. Turn it around so you can see I'm cutting into the paper. There's a little strand of the paper on the fabric the other side, all the way around. What I didn't say when I was showing you the sorry, I can't really look and cut at the same time, so you're just going to have to bear with me looking down, is when you're making the document which you're going to print from, if you're going to print cushions, and I do a narrow margin. I think you go into layout and it gives you on Word, and it gives you the option for the margins, and I just go for narrow. So what you end up with is a piece of fabric on one side, cotton on paper on the other. Sometimes you get little threads and bits of dust on the fabric, and you need to get rid of all those because it will print over that, and then you'll get a kind of white spot when it comes off. And the other thing to be a bit wary of is threads. Any threads you should snip off. A bit of a disclaimer here: if you break your printer, don't sue me, it's not my problem. As I say, so far I have not done that. So that's the paper sorted. Fabric one side, paper the other. And you can just do so many things with these. You can make, you know, print out little things for bags. I'm going to do another one for bags and bedding and things, but at the moment I'm doing cushions. So then you just put it in your printer, whichever side up it goes. And then show you the screen again. I'm doing it. Oh, how do I do that? Right, I have no idea. I don't think I can. I will have to stop it and then I will come back in a minute. This is what I mean by you're just going to have to bear with me. If you want a slick TikTok-y thing, then I'm not your woman. Right, I have twirled the thingy round so that the camera is looking out into the world again. And here are the images, the mainly Art Deco women. Then we have the couple of Art Deco a pattern and a boat, and then the wives of Henry VIII, Henry VIII himself, who I've made slightly smaller in the interests of girl power. I thought it would just be rather fun to do a whole series like that, and then a few more just to fill up the page really. I think it was a lady called Tanya who's on the page, and also has her own page where she sells some lovely bits. She's asked me for a leprechaun, so there is a leprechaun. The leprechauns haven't got a defined edge, and I can talk to you about that in a bit. And then on this side I've got the kind of print menu. Now my printer, like printers do, is being a bit annoying at the moment. It decided it was going AWOL and wasn't going to be seen by my laptop, so we're going to just have to pray to the printer gods that it's working. Well, what you need to make sure of is that your print quality is best. That is pretty important. And the other important thing is to make sure that your fabric is going to be the size that you print on. You know, as it feeds through, it must be printing on the fabric. So I'm just going to press OK, and we shall sacrifice a goat and see what happens. Here. Oh, I might have to say OK again up here. Let's see what we get. Well, so far nothing is happening. Alright, oh, it wants me to do this. I hate these things. Right, now let's see if we get some print. Something is happening. I'll take you over here. I think I can hear it coming out, but I'm actually profoundly deaf, as you may know if you've been on the page long enough. So trying to hear things like this is a bit of a nightmare for me. I have to kind of, yes, it's coming out. It is giving birth to my cushions. Here they are. And they're on the right side, they're on the fabric side. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've printed on the wrong side. And they actually don't look too bad. I mean, some colours do print better than others. I don't know if I said that. Red and yellow are not great for my printer. My printer likes blue, which is weird because blue is my favourite colour. It looks like like I've got two the same, but never mind, that happens quite a lot with me. Oh, I like the Henry VIII ones, they're coming out really well. So there you go. Ooh. We have the printing on the fabric. And basically then you need to peel off the backing to just leave the fabric. And I'm going to have to stop again and twirl this round. I will try and do some editing of this, but oh, I always get a bit of a thrill when I see them like this. Oh, kind of, it worked. It's a miracle. So we've got the printed sheet. I'm looking more and more dishevelled as I go on with this. I'm not the world's most well-groomed person anyway, but never mind. Right, and then you just peel this off. And these, I keep these because when I'm gluing anything, it doesn't stick to the glue, so they're really quite useful again. Or you can actually reuse them. I tend not to, because obviously you trim around them so they get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I don't reuse them to print normally, but I use them as a kind of scrap paper to glue on. And then you have this fabric with your designs on it, and you basically just cut out your cushions. So I will just do one. I'll do this lady, and I cut her out so I've got a little margin around her like that. And then what you need to do is you need to get a pencil, which of course in my organised state I haven't done. There we go. I have a pencil here, and you draw around. You can see the image on the back, and you draw around that with your pencil. So I will do that now. I haven't got to that thing, you know, the very slick filming from above stage. I'm sorry, but life's a bit short to work that out, so you're just gonna have to look at me looking down, and then I'll show you what I mean. So I have drawn all the way around that with pencil, and at the bottom you can see I've made two little marks like that, and that is where I'm not going to sew. That is my gap that I leave to turn my cushion. And if you don't leave those marks and think you will remember, I can assure you you won't. Yes. You just end up sewing all the way around, and you have a lovely little square you can't open. And don't ask me how I know that. And now what you need is your sewing machine, really. I forgot to mention that you need a sewing machine. You probably can hand sew them if you've got very neat sewing, and I might actually give it a go just to see how it works, and come back to you on that. But I've never hand sewn, I've always machine sewn. And you need a sewing machine that can do quite a small straight stitch. I do 1.5 on mine, so you obviously need a backing as well. Let me see. Basically get another piece of cotton or anything, and cut yourself another piece of fabric. Just cut round the square you've got. So you've got two. You've got your cushion, you've got your backing. It's not rocket science really, is it? And then you put the two together, and you put your cushion the other way round, so the right side is inside. You're sewing right sides together, as I say on the sewing bee. And again, I mean, you know, I do a lot of sewing. I do cushions, I do lots of other sewing, and the amount of times I have sewn that to that, and various, I mean, you'd think you're sewing two pieces of fabric together, and how many different ways are there you can do it wrong, and there seem to be quite a lot, but it's a doll's house cushion at the end of the day, isn't it? And you know, if you get it wrong, you can always try again and swear a bit. Right, I shall now get my sewing machine out and sew around this. I'll get my laptop out of the way. I've got a very small room I work in, so everything's everywhere. And this is my pride and joy, this sewing machine. It's a Husqvarna, and I've had it many years, and I bought it second hand, and it's just brilliant. And I don't know what I'm going to do when it eventually decides to give up. To be honest, I quite hope I give up before it does, because I don't know what I will do without it. Right, so again, I think I'm going to have to, let's see if I can show you. All I'm showing you at the moment is the mess of my workshop. So I think I will turn off and twiddle it round again. Okay, so I got my sewing machine out and I have sewn with a 1.5 stitch all the way around the outside of my pencil line, leaving a gap there. I didn't bother filming that because I couldn't work out how to do it. And my tripod is still in pieces, where I tried to take it apart and put it back together for complicated reasons, and I can't be bothered to try and sort it out. I had a quick go of it and I started looking at a video on YouTube, and it was an unboxing video of an American. Hey, and this is the microphone, and this is the, I just want to see how I put it together, but so I will just have to wait until I'm feeling a bit more patient. So you trim the threads off. What you do is when you start sewing, just do a back stitch at the beginning, and then when you get to the end, again do another back stitch like you always do if you've sewn. You just back stitch over that beginning and end to strengthen it, because when you turn it over you want it to be not come apart on you. And then you trim round, and I've got great respect for people who do these videos now, because it's quite tricky to do things. So you cut round the corners, quite close to the corners, but obviously not into them. There you go. So cut the corners and then trim quite near, but again not right into the edge. So I don't know how much, there's about 3mm around the edge of your cushion. And then do the 3 edges. This edge here with the gap, leave that a little bit bigger, like that. So you'd end up with something that looks like that. Just throw those bits in the bin because they normally end up on the floor otherwise. And then you turn it the right way around. So you just do that with your fingers initially. Sometimes some of the ink will come off onto the back of the cushion, but especially if it's a dark colour. But I tend not to bother about that because no one sees the back of the cushions anyway. So you end up with something that looks like that. And then you have to poke the corners out, and I've got a needle somewhere that I use, like a darning needle, but I can't find that. So anything really that's not too sharp will do. So I'm using a cocktail stick here with the end that I've just broken off a bit. Go easy on the corners because it's very easy to poke a hole in them. Just take your time. I make lots and lots of cushions, and I tend to just sit in front of the television now, turning them in. Or I go, my partner's a musician, and there you go, I poked into that already. Sometimes if you rub it, the threads go back together and you can snip the loose thread off and no one ever's the wiser. This might end up as a second. You can see there's a tiny little hole in it. I think that'll be all right. That'll be okay. Yeah, that's gone now. But you just have to, as I said, my partner's a musician, and he if I go to a gig, I'll take a load of cushions and sit in the corner. People come over and say, "What are you doing?" I say, "I'm making cushions for dolls' houses." And, "Oh, okay, we'll leave you alone." It's quite a good way of getting people not to talk to you. And just do this last corner. So, just prodding it. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm making a video. There you go. Now you've got turned that the right way out. The bottom isn't folded in yet, so fold the bottom in. And what I do is I put my finger, I squidge it around and put my finger in, do that. So it's like you're finger pressing really the bottom of the cushion to keep it in line, and pull it, and it will just naturally kind of follow its own line, and then just finger press it. And then the next thing you should do is get an ironing cloth, an old bit of cotton cloth, put it over the top on your ironing board, put it on the cotton setting, and then just press it for about 10 seconds so it's heat pressed. And that should, according to the Google, it should fix the colours. And it also, you know, quite often the back, it will get a bit crunched up as you're turning it out. So it just neatens it up a bit. But I'll do that later. What I've got here, in the spirit of Blue Peter, is a cushion that I made earlier. Which is, I live in Scotland, and this is a very famous Scottish painting that I really like. I've actually got a copy of it on my wall, so I quite often make this cushion. It sounds quite well at Christmas. And then you need some rice. I think there's a hole in this bag of rice. And I use the cheapest rice I can get my hands on. About 52p a packet, but any rice you've got in the cupboard. Really, if you're not making very many, it's not like you're going to use a family supply of food for the week. And then you basically open up the bottom of the cushion and fill it with rice and stuff it in, and just do it as much as you want your cushion to be stuffed, really, as long as you leave enough gap at the top to glue it together. So that's probably as much as I do. And you don't really want to overstuff it, because the point of stuffing it with rice is that it allows it to sit more naturally than if you use stuffing. So you want it to have a bit of give in it, really. I've probably overfilled that slightly, that's better. And then finally you have to glue it together at the bottom, and I use tacky glue. This is brilliant stuff, I love it. It's not cheap, but a little goes a long way. You can get smaller bottles, and it's really great for fabric. I think Julie Warren, the queen of the Doll's House tutorials, uses Gorilla Wood glue for her fabrics, but everyone's got their own little preferences, haven't they, for things. So I have stolen her idea of using bits of cardboard to put my glue on, and the cocktail stick as the applicator. So and then what I do is I always glue on the side that's got the picture on inside there. So that's the side with the picture on, and I'll glue in there. I put a reasonable amount of glue inside. Try and shake down the rice. Sometimes the rice kind of rises up and sticks to the glue, which can be a bit annoying. So that's it. So I put the glue inside on that rim, and then pull it and pinch it together, and you get glue all over your fingers. And just rub the glue off your fingers and line it up. And the other thing that happens is you get these little fibres that go across, and you just rub it get rid of them, and then just pinch it for a few seconds like that, and that's done then. There it is. It needs to dry a little bit more obviously, but you there have a finished cushion. I hope all that was useful. I'm sorry it was a bit like Henry Cooper, but I had a good fun doing this, and now I'm going off to have dinner with a friend. So thanks for watching and bearing with me, and I'll see you again. Thanks, bye.